I've gotten a lot of hate from my stance on antidepressants and PTSD, and people have been saying, well, you're not a doctor, you can't make these kind of claims. And you're right, I am not a doctor. I am not a doctor. Before I got sick, I was a data analyst, and I was on track to becoming a data scientist. Now, what does a data analyst do? A data analyst takes data, raw data, and makes sense out of it. So my superpower is researching. I don't look at anecdotal evidence. What is anecdotal evidence? Evidence like Facebook posts or articles or memes or people's claims. I don't count that as data. I go straight to the source. I look at census data. I look at historic data. I look at patterns. I look at medical journals. I look at medical studies, which can, by the way, also be biased. What is bias? Bias is the person's opinion skewing the data. None of us are infallible. I am not infallible. Doctors are not infallible. Researchers are not infallible. Only God is infallible. So we sometimes make assumptions based on our own biases. This is why I do not get into political discussions. This is why I do not get into war discussions, because I'm biased and I cannot stay neutral in those kind of situations. So my research is based on data, pure, unadulterated, unbiased data, and that's how I am so confident in making my claims. Now, if I come across data that is not in line with my opinion, I am able to change my opinion. I'm not set in my ways. People who are set in their ways really, really scare me because they're not willing to look at new data and change their opinions. I like to use the scientific method to experiment with different supplements. What is the scientific method? You learned this in school, where you have a hypothesis and then you test it out to see if it works or not. So I could be trying a supplement, I could be trying a cure, and if it doesn't work for me, you'll see me not talking about it anymore because I tested it and I saw that it doesn't work. Now, going back to antidepressants, if you're still here, they work in the short term. In the short term, they work. But in the long term, they do not work. And not only don't they work in the long term, they stop working in most cases, and they cause irreversible damage. They cause irreversible damage to your thyroid. They cause irreversible damage to your chemicals. They cause irreversible damage to your GI tract, to your metabolism. They are really, really, really bad for you. And most people are not told this by their doctors. Now, another question that I get asked is, why did I take Latuda when, I should have done my research? I was not in a good place when I took Latuda. So basically what happened was that my PTSD started making me dysregulate, and because at that point I had something called alexithymia, which was yet to be diagnosed, I did not recognize what emotions I was feeling. So alexithymia is where you don't recognize your emotions. It happens with people with autism, it happens with people with PTSD. I think like 40% of combat veterans who have PTSD have alexithymia. So that's why it's so important that if you have PTSD, you seek specific trauma-trained therapists. So I wasn't in the position to make a good informed decision because my mind was not right. I was like completely out of it. But as I got off of the medication, I was able to make better decisions because my mind cleared up. Do not get off of medications cold turkey. It's a bad idea. It is a bad idea. I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you, it is a bad idea to get off medications cold turkey. Don't do it. It will cause more damage from withdrawal symptoms. And also remember, doctors are not infallible. They have biases. So if you believe that you have something and the doctor is not really meshing with you, I really encourage people to doctor shop until they find the doctor that is more aligned with their diagnoses and can help them. Also, trauma therapy. Trauma therapy, trauma therapy, trauma therapy. If you have PTSD, trauma therapy. That's my advice. I am not a doctor. I'm just a researcher, and I hope that my advice and my information is as unbiased as possible. But if I do get new information, my advice can change. So remember, always be open to new research and always try to be as unbiased as possible.